What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Roman's Creative Academy. As always, I'm Jay.
And I'm Mike.
And today, we're actually going to have a little bit more of a conversation with you guys. There goes my earring.
See, we're real life. This isn't in a studio. So today what we're going to be doing, like Jay said, we're going to be going through more of a conversational aspect. But what we're going to be talking about today is how do we pay our private money lenders when we do use it, right? So private money is an amazing tool. And no, we're not talking hard money. We're talking private money, which we borrow from individuals, not businesses, not banks, not corporations, anything like that. These are private loans that we use to acquire creative deals in many different ways, right?
So, Mike, I think there's really a misconception out there that with creative financing, we need little to no money to purchase these deals, these houses. But in reality, yes, you may in retrospect to other deals, you may need less money, but you still need money to close on these deals, right?
Yeah, I think the misconception is you do a no money down deal. Yes, it may be no money down to the seller, but I'll give you an example. That house that we have over in Corlopolis, we have a really good deal, actually, that just came through. If anybody wants to take a look at it, let me know.
Also, join our VIP buyers list.
Yep.
We'll link it.
But that deal, right, let's just say that seller does need some money down, but even if that was a no money down deal to the seller, the closing cost would be about 10 grand on that one. So you still need $10,000 to close on it, right? It's just no money down to the seller, right? So what do you do if you want to keep the deal? I think it's the wording more so than anything is it's a no money out of your own pocket or none of your own money to get into the deal.
And so that's why we use private money, because say we bought that deal, right? And we needed to bring $10,000. It's not like we don't have the $10,000, but we can use that $10,000 for marketing, for our CRM, for
Payroll,
all of that stuff, versus just here you go, let's put all this in that deal.
Correct.
So this is where we coupled creative financing with private money, and we're going to talk about how we use it.
Yep, and how it's actually helped us scale quicker than we could have if we didn't start using it. The thing is, and this is something that we see, is a lot of people use private money even when they're inexperienced, and that is not something that we ever suggest. If you are inexperienced and you're new and you do not have a coach or you do not have somebody right by your side to teach you how to do it from step A to Z, I wouldn't touch private money with a 10-foot pole, because at the end of the day, you're playing with an actual person's money, right? So you need to be able to make sure that you know how to repay it. And that is one of the biggest things that we see in the market right now. And honestly, that I've seen, I'm sure you see it too, Jay, is like there's a lot of guys and gals who will do a creative deal, have a $60,000 entry fee, and then realize, oh shit, how am I supposed to pay back this 60 grand that I just borrowed, and then default? Right? You know, it's not monopoly money where it's fake, right? It's real money. You may not see it, but it's real.
And it's not just in creative deals. It happens in all industries,
all kinds of
niches
deals.
and industries, where people just miscalculate taking advice from, free resources, and they get wrong information, and then they don't run their numbers correctly, and then there's unforeseen costs, right?
Yep, exactly. Like, for example, what are some ways that we have used private money? We'll give you a couple examples, right? So a couple ways I think we have 3 different ways that we've used private money in the past. One is we use it to purchase our creative deals, right?
Most obvious one.
Yep. What do we mean by that? Well, this house right here, it between arrears because there was missed mortgage payments because it was in pre-foreclosure, closing costs, and some money to get the seller to move, right? Because she had no money to even leave the house. I think it was like 20. I have to check the settlement sheet, but I think it's either like 28,000 or 30,000, something like that. And yes, we could have used the 30 grand, but we also had to do 20 grand in work to the house, right? So we could have used the 30 grand to close on it, but then we would have had to use another 20. And this is our primary residence, so we weren't going to flip the house and sell it to pay ourselves back plus some.
So we'll get into how we repaid that one.
Correct. But so we used long-term private money to buy this one, and we're going to get into how that all works. Now, second is the transactional funding. So like Manheim, when we bought Manheim.
That was what I was going to get into. The second example being, we found a creative deal that we wanted to keep. So we were able to use transactional funding to be able to close on it. And we had a plan to repay that back in a short period of time.
And what does transactional lending mean? Right? So it's not like, okay, so there's different types of transactional lending too, but we're not going to get into all that. What we mean by transactional lending is short term, right? So you're borrowing money for a short period of time. Typically, short term lending is 12 months or less, right? So basically, we knew that we were going to buy this deal and we needed closing costs, and I think the seller needed I think all in to buy the deal was like $14,000. At the time when we bought this deal, cash was a little tight because we had a lot of different projects going on. So we said, well, we're definitely not letting this deal go. We're keeping it. So we brought in a private lender and we said, okay, we'll give you 12% interest over 12 months. And we're going to get into how we do pay everybody back and how we paid that person back.
And then the last one being, which I think a lot of people don't think about doing, in this specific scenario, but what have we been really doing lately that has changed our business?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been doing a lot of novations, right? So in terms of the novation, kind of like our last one, we probably could have did the funding ourselves, right? But why, if we can use other people's money, why not?
Right? The whole point is to not tie up your cash into a deal that you've got going on so that you can continue to work on multiple projects and, like we mentioned, scale quicker. But if you don't know what a novation is, we're not going to get into that in this video, but make sure you follow us on Instagram because we're always putting out there, what these terms mean, examples of what worked for us and what didn't work so well. And if you guys are interested, we can do a video on here about that, but just make sure you're following us on all social media because we give you all types of angles, right? So in an novation deal, repairs were needed to the house. So we were able to use funding, so private money, to be able to fund those repairs, right? And so we're going to go back now and tell you guys how exactly we repaid these three different types of deals.
Yep, absolutely. So for the first one, kind of like the long-term lender that we talked about that we have with this house, right? This is what we call, and what it is, it's not what we didn't name it, right? But basically right now with this private lender, we're making monthly mortgage payments to the bank on the seller's behalf because we bought this on a mirror wrap. And then we also have a note with the private lender stating that we're going to be making them monthly payments at a lower interest rate than what a short-term loan would be at, right? Over the next, I think for this one, it's over the next 5 years. So we're going to be paying them back over a 5-year term, right? And why would a lender want to tie up their cash? Well, for this property, right, you're 100% correct, right? But for this property, I would say the main reason that the lender wanted to do it was because it wasn't such a large sum of money. But I think anything more that's where you hear people start talking about like private money partners and
But also, essentially, the interest rate that the private money lender gives you is typically higher percentage rate than what they can get at in the stock market.
yeah,
Right? And that's why they would do that for you.
exactly. Come here, dude.
Come say hi, bud.
Come here, man. Look.
This is Roman, for whoever doesn't know who Roman is.
Yep, he's actually real. So, sit down, bud. Sit, bud. Sit. I know, we're on camera now. You see? So, with that being said, right, we're going to be paying back our private money lender on this one. It's a 6% interest rate that we're paying back over 5 years. So that's what helped us buy this with literally nothing out of pocket. We actually got cut a check at closing for this property. Now, with the second one, kind of talk about like with Manheim, that one was pretty cool.
That one we kept actually in our portfolio, and the way that we were able to repay the private money lender, and don't worry about Roman, he's just roaming around. We knew that we wanted to keep this house to do rent to own. So with rent to own, they're not regular, obviously, tenants, they're tenant buyers, and they typically give you a down payment. So we knew based on our formulas and numbers that the down payment they would give us would essentially cover most, if not all, of the costs that the private money lender would give us. And we even borrowed a couple months of holding costs.
Yeah, so with that one, what me and you, when we sat down, we looked at it and we said, okay, well, we know that typically on a rent to own, especially if we price it properly, right, we're probably going to get a tenant buyer within 2 to 3 months, right? So if we were like, well, if we're going to be using private money to buy the property, why not use it to pay the mortgage payments while we don't have somebody in there? So we borrowed, it was, and now I remember, it was $14,000 and change to close on it, right? And then we borrowed 3 months of monthly payments, which were $1,093, I think that mortgage is. And that property was like broom swept. We didn't even need to touch a broom. So we borrowed 3 months of payments. So we were all in for, I think it was like 18 grand. So we walked away from closing that day with a little over $3,000 in our pocket to pay the monthly mortgage payments in the future. So we got paid to buy that house that day. And then we found a tenant buyer on month 2, right? So we didn't use all of the monthly payments that we asked the private lender to give us. So we had some surplus there, right? And we borrowed, it was like 18 and change plus 12% interest, right? So now you're thinking, do the math. You guys can do the math. I'm not going to do this in my head right now, right? And then we had to pay back the private lender. So we collected a $15,000 down payment from our tenant buyers, and I think we were all in for like a little over 18,000, right? So
we can break the numbers down for you guys in another video.
I like numbers. So.
But basically, like I was saying, that down payment was able to repay the private money lender we were out of pocket, I think, $2,000 for that one because of the interest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, but we cash flow $600 a month net, so we were able to give ourselves that money back like this.
Yep. And so then the last one, which I mentioned a lot of people don't do, novation is, just a quick backstory, is when you are able to come to an agreement with the seller for a cash price, but it's not at a deeply discounted rate. It's discounted, but not as much as the cash formula, right? And then you tell them, hey, I'm actually going to be listing this on the MLS, and I'll take care of all of the repairs. So instead of us coming out of pocket, this is where we have private money lenders come in, and we just say, hey, we need X amount for this period of time, and we'll give you X amount in return, right? And so when we make the repairs and list it on the market, once that sells, they know that they're going to get repaid back.
Yep. Exactly.
Interesting, right? Because now you're saving on closing costs, like as if you were doing a flip.
You're basically flipping it without ever buying it. That's the best way to put it. And then instead of asking a private money lender to come out of pocket for the purchase and for the rehab, that means you're going to need to find somebody who has a lot of capital to lend. The cool part about all the lending strategies that we use is we can borrow money from people who may not have hundreds of thousands, right? Where if you're going to buy a deal cash, the three options we just went over, the biggest private money loan, right, that we have is the 30,000 and change, which we're paying on a monthly basis for here. The second one was for like 16 grand, and we have used them for other properties too. That's just the one example. And then the last is the novation, and a lot of times with our novations, we're getting turnkey houses that we just list. Our last one, there were some things that came up in an inspection report we had to do, and then that's when we used the private money to cover those costs. So, and it was like under $10,000. So it makes it super easy for us to be able to find private money for the things that we do. And as we grow and as we scale and we get into bigger deals, right, we're going to be looking for different lenders as well.
So basically with this video, what we want you guys to learn is that you don't have to be afraid to borrow 100,000, 200,000 to do rehabs when you don't know how to do rehabs. Start small, try innovation, try a creative deal where you have a coach that tells you, hey, these are your formulas. And you just have to make sure we're right here so that the numbers pan out, right? Obviously, sometimes there's unforeseen things. That's why you adjust in your formulas for that, account a certain percentage. But this is a way for that to alleviate those anxieties, that scarcity mindset of, I don't know if I can do this. This is the power of real estate, right? You don't have to jump into the big leagues immediately. You can start slow.
Yep, absolutely. And I would say if you're looking to get started and you find a property and you want to take it down and you don't have the money, one of our students just did this. I think it was like, it wasn't a lot of money to close. I think she put like 2.5% down to the seller over the overall purchase price plus closing costs. She borrowed, I think she wind up walking away from the closing table with $8,000 to make some repairs to the property, and she's going to repay the private money lender with a rent-to-own tenant buyer. If you are going to get started, that is the best coupling strategy that you can do, is to use private money to close on a close to turnkey property with creative financing and put a tenant buyer in the home to pay them back. It's very close to being guaranteed, and it's a very small amount, right? I would say that is probably, if you're going to do this, right, to go that route first.
If you guys have any questions about any of these three that we did, leave them in the comments. Submit them in our website at romanscreativeacademy.com/ask. If you want us to personally answer the questions for you, we're more than happy to do that. If you're interested in working with us, check the links below. But hopefully this was helpful to you guys. And yeah, if you liked this video, make sure to subscribe so that you get notifications that a new video has come out from us. We always love supporting you, and we just ask for a little support back. So like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video.
See ya.